Live from KSAT 12, the Nightbeat starts right now.
A priest who is not only lending a shoulder to cry on, but giving his all to support the Uvalde community in their time of grief. How he's been helping since day one of the tragedy.
And there's a new 3-digit hotline for suicide prevention. It's 988, and tonight we speak to a woman who has 2 family connections to suicide, why she says this new hotline could be the difference between life and death.
But first, zero hesitation. That's the message the city of Uvalde wanted painted for its law enforcement response for the Uvalde school massacre, where 19 teachers were killed. Yeah, in a document titled Narrative, a summary and explanation of events was written and presented by Uvalde officials during a June 2nd meeting with DPS, just a little over a week after that mass shooting. That document obtained by KSAT today showed that Uvalde city officials attempted to lay out their own version of their law enforcement response, which has been under high scrutiny. Now, to remind you, it took law enforcement 77 minutes to bring down the shooter. Some of the notable passages from that document are, quote, 40 minutes were not wasted, but each minute was used to save lives of children and teachers, end quote. And the shooter would have had, quote, free range on the school, end quote, if it wasn't for the Uvalde CISD police immediately being on scene. The document also states, quote, not a single officer present, including DPS troopers and Texas Rangers, believe they could save lives by approaching that door and being killed one by one, end quote. Meanwhile, the New York Times reports in that June 2nd meeting, city officials objected to criticism from DPS director about their response when saying they made the wrong decision. To read more about that document, just head over to KSAT.com. And that day, Father Matthew DeLeon, a priest and dean of the Uvalde Deanery, responded immediately, meeting with the children and their families at the hospital. He tells me the Catholic Church will continue to support the community however long they can, for as long as is needed.
Devastating and traumatizing, but also very overwhelming, breathtaking to see the depth of their faith. Every moment of May 24th is still etched in Father Matthew DeLeon's mind. I was able to make it in time to the emergency room to be able to receive many of the victims that were coming in, many of the children, to give them the anointing of the sick. Many of the families attend Sacred Heart Catholic Church just down the street from Robb Elementary. Days after the massacre, a majority of the funerals taking place there. It is overwhelming and disorienting, but at the same time, very just incredible. DeLeon's church in neighboring Sabinal is similar, tight-knit, as he describes. It's why he didn't hesitate to step in with the Sacred Heart's priest away. Started helping from that day to this day. God willing, for the next 6 months, we have immediate resources available. At the church, there are grief counselors, financial assistance, housing assistance, anything the community could need. We have been from that day. We've been doing it ever since, and we're going to be there as long as we need to be. On the day of President Biden's visit to Uvalde, Father DeLeon helped Sacred Heart host a community mass to pray for the victims and survivors. People describe the church as the community's heart, a heart that's broken, but working to heal. Though we experience these difficult and sometimes unimaginably difficult moments, that helping each other get through it is what helps us to heal. The resources at the church are in addition to the resources that are available at the Uvalde Together Resiliency Center. We have the details on what's offered there on KSAT.com. Now to other stories we've been following today. Bexar County deputies discover more than $100,000 worth of meth during a traffic stop, and now that driver is facing charges. Here he is, 41-year-old Kevin Sauls. He's now facing possession charges. He was pulled over yesterday near I-35. Deputies say they found more than 23 pounds of meth. They say the street value for those drugs is around $120,000. A youth basketball coach is in jail tonight being held without bond after San Antonio police arrested him for being around children without disclosing that he was a registered sex offender. 34-year-old Carlos Castillo is now facing 2 felony charges. Court records show police were first made aware of Castillo's coaching position with the Texas flight team by parents of players. He went on out-of-town trips with the team, where one parent claims he was allegedly grooming some of the boys and asking for goodnight kisses.
Castillo admitted to police he didn't inform his probation officer of the position because he was afraid of hearing no.
We now know the name of a man who was found dead from a single vehicle crash overnight Friday in South Bexar County. The Bexar County Medical Examiner's Office has identified him as 23-year-old Jose Perez. The crash happened at the intersection of New Mathis Road and Canyonwood Drive near I-37. Bexar County deputies say Perez had just left a bar up the road when he lost control of his pickup, went off the road and landed in a ditch. The pickup was found flipped over and Perez was pronounced dead at the scene.
A widow who lost her husband to suicide and almost lost her son the same way is now spreading awareness of the value of dialing 988. It's the new 3-digit National Suicide Prevention Hotline. The Night Team's Camille Juarez brings us her story.
Kristen Christie met her husband Don through the Air Force. She says everything changed after he was deployed to Baghdad.
Don came back different. We hear a lot about it, especially in the military. And 4 years later, 3 days before he was pinning on Colonel, he took his life.
Years later, in the middle of the night, Christy missed a call from her son right before he made an attempt to take his own life.
He's dead right now. I can't go now.
And that was one of the reasons I said something had to change.
Someone who lost their loved one to suicide is 65% more likely to make an attempt on their own life, according to the Medical Research Center.
Make it easier for people to ask for help when they're in that crisis mode, when they've got those blinders on.
Christy now spends her time as a suicide prevention advocate and is a huge supporter of this new 3-digit hotline number.
He had 988 when mom didn't answer. I don't know if that would have helped. I don't know if 988 would have helped my first husband, Don, but I would give anything to go back and have that opportunity.
Here's how it works. When someone dials 988 in Bexar County or surrounding areas, the call goes to Integral Care in Austin. Administrator Nicole Warren says 90% of crisis calls can be solved over the phone with the help of trained professionals.
People just want to be heard. They want to know that somebody is there listening to them and that somebody, cares and that they're important, they're not alone, and they matter.
People can also text 988 to be connected with someone who understands military culture. Just dial 1 after 988. And if you're worried about someone, you can call 988 and they can call your loved one to check in on them. Camille Juarez, KSAT 12 News.
Amelia, thank you. Some 3,000 families have some relief from the summer heat now after cool kits were handed out to the community. The kits included box fans and window units. More than 3,700 were handed out today by volunteers with Meals on Wheels San Antonio. More than 400 volunteers were out helping. Extreme heat is responsible for more weather-related deaths in the U.S. in an average year than any other hazard. That's according to the National Weather Service.
And Adam Cassidy joining us now for a preview of the weather here.
Yeah, and I do want to point out that the Aquifer actually really enjoyed a few days of rainfall. Some downpours popped up, especially on the northwest side of town the past couple of days, and it gave us about a 1.5 foot boost today, but we're still about 26, 27 feet below average for this time of year. Stage 2 watering restrictions. And I want to point out molds high with a count of about 3,700, a result of the isolated downpours that we had the past few days. Say goodbye to those rain chances, unfortunately. Temperatures will be on the upswing. We'll talk about when it's going to be the hottest, when we could break some records, and even the Saharan dust in just a bit.
Still ahead on the Nightbeat, it's a mass shooting that made headlines before Uvalde, the Buffalo supermarket shooting. See what reopening weekend looks like there and how they are honoring the lives lost. Plus, have you ever wanted to go swimming in the San Antonio River? If so, you might want to keep that wish. We'll explain in our latest KSAT Explains episode.
A second COVID-19 booster shot could be in the works if the spike in COVID cases continue. What we're seeing across the nation as the Omicron subvariants spread.
As the country sees yet another COVID-19 variant, this one said to be more contagious than previous variants, health officials are now urging booster shots even more strongly.
The FDA and CDC considering widening eligibility for booster shots to include all adults. Here's ABC's Morgan Norwood with details.
As the highly infectious BA.5 subvariant continues to spread, the FDA and CDC are considering widening eligibility for a second COVID-19 booster to include all adults. A new CDC analysis shows protection against initial Omicron variants increase with each booster shot, suggesting the current vaccine may still protect against serious illness from BA.5.
The good news is that vaccinated and boosted people, particularly those who receive the full component of the boosting, are generally pretty well protected against severe disease.
But the more than half of Americans who are already eligible for a booster shot haven't gotten one.
Very, very clear in my mind that your risk of ending up in the ICU is dramatically higher if you have not gotten a booster, if you've not gotten that third shot.
For children under 5, only about 400,000 have received their first shot, just 2% of the 19.5 million kids in that age group. Overall, about 71 million Americans remain unvaccinated, about 20% of the population. Nationwide, more than 124,000 new cases are being reported every day, up nearly 16% in the past week. Every region of the country is seeing a rise in hospitalizations, and in the past week, 2,500 people have died, though infection rates could actually be much higher as dozens of states shut down testing sites. More people are testing at home and not reporting those positive results. And as cases rise, Los Angeles County is on course to reinstate indoor mask mandates by the end of July.
We're saying there is need to worry. This variant is, as everybody has noted, highly infectious, easily transmitted.
Nationwide, more than half of the population is now in those orange high-risk counties where the CDC says you should be masking indoors. In those yellow medium risk areas, they say you should consider masking based on your individual risk. Morgan Norwood, ABC News, Los Angeles.
We could be days, hours, maybe even minutes away from seeing the corpse flower bloom. This is a live look at its temporary home at the San Antonio Zoo. The community has recently named the flower La Llorona after Mexican folklore. Today, zoo staff reported the flower is starting to smell like, quote, wet trash, according to visitors. It's unclear when it will bloom, but when it does, it could last for up to 4 days. To watch this live stream, head to KSAT.com for the link.
Oh. She's getting ripe, Adam.
Yeah. Oh, man. I want to go there for this. I mean, what a combination, too. The corpse flower blooming and that smell. What, wet garbage?
Wet garbage.
Well, that's the early.
That's the early,
right?
That's the appetizer here.
It's
the amuse-bouche for your nose.
It only gets worse.
Combine it with humidity and 100-degree heat.
And the smell of the people waiting.
And the smell of people waiting.
To smell the corpse flower sounds like a great outing for the family.
Just gets better.
Smells.
Hey, it's one of those once-in-a-lifetime things, okay? I suggest going to do it. I'm going to look into it myself. That is just awesome. I remember they had one in Washington, D.C. when I lived there, and every year it would bloom and people would go see it, but it was always hard to get in. Anyway, shocking, right? Sunny and dry stretch for the next several days. Unfortunately, the downpours that we had of days past, well, they're a thing of the past. Triple digits all the way through next week, and it's only going to warm up from here, really. Saharan dust, I do think, will be noticeable tomorrow. I mean, if you have a very sensitive respiratory system, you may notice it a bit tomorrow. Otherwise, most of us will just see that extra haze in the air, in the sky, I should say. Sunrise and sunset in particular become a little more colorful and hazy when you have that African dust overhead. But good news is it's going to disperse pretty quickly on Monday and then be gone the remainder of next week. Now, here's our time lapse, and you look off into the distance, you can actually see a bit of a haze in the sky compared to what we had the past few days. And that haze, of course, was the increasing Saharan dust. Today, 100, the high temperature. That's the latest update. It's 5 degrees above average and 3 degrees shy of the record for the day. Stinson on the south side right now, 88. 90 in Castroville, Bandera 87, Los Maples 85, along with Seguin, Canyon Lake 88. We're down in the 80s right now, and even some lower 90s. Cotulla 93, along with Del Rio. Let's fast forward to tomorrow morning. 70s for most of us. I mean, low to mid 70s. 71 Rock Springs, 73 Kerrville, 7 a.m. in San Antonio, 76 degrees. And then by the afternoon, we do this all over again. Back to 100 degrees here in town. Some upper 90s in parts of the hill country, but most of us, I do think, will at least be briefly hitting 100. 101 Lackland area, Stone Oak about 99, New Braunfels 101, Lavernia, Elmendorf, all around the south side about 101 to 102 for afternoon highs tomorrow. Monday, we do it all over again. Looking and feeling just the same. Tuesday up to 101, then Wednesday and Thursday, that should be our hottest point this week. Right now, we're predicting about 103. And should that verify, well, it'd be new record high temperatures for the day. The current record for Wednesday is 101. Thursday, the record high is 102. So we're anticipating to break more record highs as we go into this upcoming work week. Dew points right now, of course, up from earlier today. Upper 60s, low 70s. We're feeling the mugginess out there. It's going to be pretty sticky through the night and to start the day tomorrow. The very high humidity, but by the afternoon, the dew points are going to fall off a bit. And so the heat index isn't going to play a huge role. You're not going to notice that really inflated feels like temperature because the drier air aloft mixes down in it nicely in the afternoon. We're looking for disturbances. We need something to generate some rain. Upper level high, it's over the Four Corners region, desert southwest. So we have this northerly flow aloft. The door is open for a disturbance. It's just we don't have any to move in. The activity right now is all in the upper Midwest, the northern plains. You look through Nebraska, Iowa, even parts of Kansas. That's where we've got the disturbance. But it's not going to be rounding that ridge and coming down here. It's going to be carried off to these. So we look to the tropics for any moisture possibilities, and unfortunately, no development expected in at least the next 5 days. So as we go through the night tonight, temperatures falling through the 70s, 76 in the morning tomorrow, 100 for the high temperature with a lot of sunshine. And then as we go through the rest of the week, there you have it, little upswing in temps to 103, the triple digit trend. It's going to continue. Yesterday was our only break so far this month from 100 degrees, but we're back at it again.
Back at it again, breaking those records. Thanks, Adam.
All right, Larry, the Spurs had been unlucky in Las Vegas during the Summer League. Were they able to cash in a win today?
They did cash in with a win. It's always awesome to leave Vegas as a winner. Of course, exactly what the Spurs did today. Finally is an awesome banner for that. And Keldon Johnson got a pretty sweet contract extension coming up. The Spurs closed out Las Vegas Summer League play with the Memphis Grizzlies this afternoon. San Antonio looking for its first win in Vegas. First quarter, Sasha Stefanovic from three is good, and we're tied at 15. Moments later, Stefanovic feeds Josh Carlton for a slam dunk, tying this at 17. Memphis led 22-17 after one. Second quarter, Stefanovic drives baseline and finds DJ Stewart for three, and the Spurs go up 40-36. Cue up Blake Wesley now for a triple try. It's good, and it was 47-all, which was your halftime score. Wesley shot 2 for 11 in the first half. And check out the guy wearing a bear costume. He got a lot of TV time thanks to ESPN. Pretty funny. Third quarter, Malachi Branham gets the rebound, followed by a wide-open slam dunk to make it 56-52 San Antonio. They led 68-59 after three. Now the question is, can the Spurs hold on to the lead? Fourth quarter, Spurs are down 3 when Branham makes a 3-ball. Moments later, Robert Woodard steals the ball and finds Branham for a running layup, and the Spurs go up 84-82. Closing seconds, Memphis looking to tie, but Dakota Mathias misses a 3, and the Spurs survive 90-87 to finish the Summer League on a high note.
And it felt good. It felt good. You know, we got a good group of guys, but, you know, we would always just finish the game kind of slow a little bit and have other teams come back. So it felt good to, you know, get the win.
It was a lot. I'm just blessed to be in this opportunity, blessed to play for the Spurs, blessed to play with Malachi, all the guys that was on the Spurs. It was fun. I enjoyed it. We won a game, so we was on 4 coming in, so we had to leave Summer League with a win.
22-year-old Keldon Johnson has agreed to a 4-year, $80 million extension with the Spurs, per his representative, Clutch Sports Agency. Johnson has $3.8 million team option left on his rookie contract, so this will be in addition to that deal. A former first-round pick out of Kentucky in 2019, Johnson averaged a career-best 17.1 points per game last season while shooting 39.8% from three-point range. At 6'5", he's continued to improve year after year. With the Spurs in a transitional period as a franchise, they are committed committing to Johnson for the foreseeable future. Yesterday in the WNBA, the Minnesota Lynx won at the Indiana Fever 87-77, handing Indiana its 8th straight loss. Fever rookie Nalissa Smith scored 9 points to go with the team-high 9 rebounds. The Fever will play at the Seattle Storm tomorrow at 5 p.m. The Camerons, Smith and Young struggled during the third round of the Open Championship, so Rory McIlroy and Victor Hovland took advantage. Cameron shot a 1 over 73, and Cameron Young carded a 1 under 72. Both entered the third round tied for first. Hovland was on fire early on, sinking 4 straight birdie putts at 3, 4, 5, and 6 en route to a 6 under 66. Now Rory with the shot of the day, par 4 10th, greenside bunker, and he chips in for an eagle 2, and Rory is pumped up. 18th hole. Rory's eagle putt stops very close to the hole. This after his only bogey of the day on 17. His birdie putt on 18 was good to help Rory fire a 6 under 66, tying him for first heading into the final round.
The more people bring up the result, the more I'm just going to harp on about process and sticking to my game plan, because that's the only thing I can do, and I've done that well for the last 3 days, and it's put me in this position. So I just need to do it for one more day.
Check out the leaderboard now. McIlroy and Hovland lead the Open Championship at St. Andrews at 16 under par. Smith and Young are both 4 shots back. Congratulations to Brandeis High School alum Emma McMyler, who won the 101st Women's Texas Amateur Championship Friday at the Golf Club of Houston's tournament course. The Xavier University junior also won the title last year, becoming the first back-to-back Women's Texas Amateur champion since 1999-2000. That's pretty darn cool. Frank Harris and Rashad Wisdom are giving back to the community. We got it later in sports.
There it is. There's the football.
There it is for you, Gerbs.
Thanks, Larry.
Next on the Night Beat, it's a staple of the Alamo City, the San Antonio River. Though it looks nice, we can't say the same for what is found in the water.
No one ever wants to say I'm part of the problem, but we all are.
We take water samples to the lab to see what's really in the San Antonio River and how it affects it. That's next in our latest KSAT Explains episode. Well, it's devastated our city, but also brought prosperity. And at the end of the day, it's why San Antonio even exists. I mean, if you think about it, the San Antonio River really defines our community.
Yeah, but at the same time, not many of us would willingly jump into the waterway we value so much. That's because we have a pretty good idea of what's in there, and let's be honest, it's not pretty.
For this case that explains, Justin Horn takes us inside of a lab to explore just how polluted the river is and answers the question, will we ever be able to swim in the San Antonio River?
We have a trash problem.
You might say that step one is admitting you have a problem, but we've known about our trash issue for years. Change takes time.
And that trash isn't being done by me or you, it's all of us. No one ever wants to say I'm part of the problem, but we all are.
That's true, but it's not just trash that makes the San Antonio River a lesson in biochemistry. And to understand it better, let's float our way back to the beginning.
This is the historic source of the water that feeds to the river.
In the middle of the University of Incarnate Word, the Blue Hole stands as an icon of San Antonio history. After all, this is likely where civilization began in the area. It was a prolific spring.
And you'll actually get this blue, iridescent kind of water flowing out of here. It's really magical.
Magical, yes, but only on rare occasions. These days, it's mostly dried up.
You got to have an aquifer level of 672 feet or more for this to flow. So then the question becomes, where does the water in the San Antonio River that we see around the Riverwalk, where does it come from?
For many years, it came from wells, but then we realized the aquifer needed protecting.
So for the last 20 years, the primary source of the Riverwalk water and the water going downstream has been reclaimed water. Now that can all change when it rains. We get a lot of rainwater in. These springs do flow every couple years as well. But predominantly, when you're on the Riverwalk having a margarita, that's reclaimed water for the most part, and the zoo well, making up most of the flow of the river.
Affluent water, as it's called, can make up as much as 90% of the water in the river. And while it comes from things like sewer plants, it happens to be very clean.
The
then when we place it under the UV lamp, if it fluoresces brighter than that, then it will be positive for E. coli.
So then why, when tested in the San Antonio River Authority lab, is the water from the river glowing? No, it's not radioactive, but tests which are done here often glow when E. coli is present. You've probably heard of this rather unfriendly bacteria which can have bad results for you and I if ingested. And that E. coli gets in our river from, well, you've probably guessed by now, the polite term is excrement.
If you're not picking up after your pet, then the excrements are being flushed into the river, and that's the source of E. coli.
It's not just Fido's fault, though. Animals of all kinds contribute, including feral hogs who use the river as their personal restroom. And ducks? That's why they tell you not to feed the ducks. And how do we know that? This machine in the River Authority lab can break down whose gut that E. coli came from. So, circling back to the whole swimming thing.
The reason why there's more of the concern as far as pollutants go is because there are elevated levels of bacteria, mostly E. coli bacteria, largely in downtown San Antonio.
And this is an important point. While you can't swim in the river in San Antonio, that's not necessarily the case farther downstream.
The water quality does get better as you go downstream, as you get away from urban city centers. One of the biggest reasons is stormwater runoff. You have the accumulation on streets, on sidewalks, on lawns, parks.
Yes, while rainfall is a good thing in most cases, it's not good, however, when it comes to water quality. It helps to wash all of San Antonio's nastiness into the river.
We can actually have pretty good water quality in these long drought periods, but the minute it rains, the water quality goes horrible.
Now that we know what's in it, what happens, and we've all thought about it, if you're walking along the Riverwalk, you trip and fall in?
You should stand up, it's pretty shallow.
Right, but are we going to get sick?
You're not going to get sick. If you jump in the river and you take a few gulps of water, things might not be as good, but you're not going to get sick just from falling in the Riverwalk.
Then what about the species that call the river home? You've likely seen someone fishing in the river. Are the fish safe to eat?
It's completely safe to eat fish in our system. The only exception is there is about a 15 or 20 mile stretch of Leon Creek that does have an impairment for edible fish tissue. So meaning you should not eat fish out of the lower portions of the Leon Creek. But every other water body in our basin is considered safe for consuming fish.
These water quality issues, by the way, are not just a San Antonio problem.
We are certainly not alone in the urban water quality issues. It is something that every single major city in the country deals with.
And the good news? San Antonio is headed in the right direction.
You talk to some people who have, horror stories from 30, 40, 50 years ago about what the river was, and where we are now is light years beyond what it was, again, many, many years ago.
Much of that thanks to moves taken by the community and the San Antonio River Authority, including inside their lab here, where water testing occurs daily.
The functions of the lab are critical because they really tell you, are all the other actions and decisions you're making and actions you're taking, are they impacting the river in a meaningful way?
Actions like the habitat restoration along the Mission Reach and the River Authority's new campaign, Don't Let Litter Trash Your River. A recent report card from the River Authority overall gave the San Antonio River a B, but it did receive an F for flood insurance coverage and public trash.
Awareness leads to action. Action leads to advocacy, where someday none of us would ever think to throw something on the street, because we know that street will go to a curb inlet, that curb inlet to a pipe, and that trash will make its way eventually to some creek or tributary that goes to the San Antonio River.
Meaning someday, just maybe more of the San Antonio River will be swimmable.
I'm an optimist, so I hope that there's something in the near future.
We often are at recreational standards that absolutely would allow you to go canoeing and kayaking, what we call secondary recreation. But the primary, where you swim, you put your head underwater, we're not there yet, but we do have a dream. That's sort of our big dream, is where and how can we make the river more swimmable.
For more episodes like these, you can scan the QR code on your screen right now. It'll take you directly to the KSAT Explains page on KSAT.com. We'll be right back. It was a mass shooting that happened just 1 week before the Uvalde school massacre, the Buffalo supermarket mass shooting, where a white gunman is accused of shooting and killing 10 black people. This weekend, that store reopening for the first time. The store has now been completely remodeled and updated. New memorials to the fallen, now a part of that store's identity. While some people felt that the store should have been taken down, the mayor of Buffalo says it took so long for the community to get a store like this, he didn't want them to be without it much longer. Earlier this week, a federal grand jury handed down a 27-count indictment against the 18-year-old suspected gunman who could be facing the death penalty.
President Joe Biden is on his way back to Washington after wrapping up his historic trip to the Middle East. Biden trying to assure Middle Eastern leaders and the rest of the world that the U.S. still believes the region is critical to its foreign policy goals. He also making two major announcements, $1 billion in aid to food security assistance in the Middle East and North Africa. And the news that Gulf Arab leaders are pledging more than $3 billion over the next 2 years in global infrastructure and investment projects. However, no solution for the high gas prices in the U.S.
Take a live look outside with the city cam here. Looking pretty nice out there. Adam Caskey will have a look at your forecast here for the rest of the weekend right after this.
Well, we all know it's been toasty outside, roasty toasty, as they say.
Roasty toasty.
And you have a very bad number behind you, Adam. 37 there?
Yep, so far, 37 100-degree days so far this year. And we're on pace to be maybe in first place for 100-degree days in a given year on record here in San Antonio. Let's take a look at the stats. So 37 so far, and we're quickly sneaking up to third place, which is 41. We should be there as we go through this upcoming week. Notice first place, 59. That was back in 2009. That's when we had the most 100-degree days in a year. It wouldn't shock me if we even beat that record. Going forward, 100 tomorrow and Monday, up to 101 on Tuesday, Wednesday and Thursday, 103, triple-digit heat all the way through next week and even into the following weekend. Also, record-challenging heat. I mean, the record high on Wednesday is 101, and on Thursday it's 102, and we're forecasting 103 both days. And we're looking for some rain. You know, this heat and the intense heat and the sunshine doesn't help in terms of our drought conditions or even aquifer, but luckily the aquifer did get a little bit of a boost over the past couple of days because of some recent rainfall. And you look at the aquifer zones, this purple part, that's the recharge zone. You really want the heavy rain right there. That's a sweet spot. But also the red contributing zone up into the hill country is helpful as well. But look at that, right along the recharge zone, northern Bexar County, we had some pretty good downpours over the past 48 hours when you look at the rainfall estimates. Here's the big picture right now. Quiet all across the Lone Star State today. Upper level high, the big blue H. It's a little bit off to our west right now, stationed and centered right over the Four Corners region. The door is open for disturbances to move in. We just don't have any. It's when this is directly overhead, it blocks everything from moving in. The disturbances are all in the northern plains and upper Midwest. They're not going to be rounding that ridge and making it down here. They're going to peel off to the east and move to the East Coast. In turn, we're looking pretty dry. And unfortunately, our drought situation is just not going to improve anytime soon. I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad news. You look across the state, 94% of Texas considered in drought. Around here, we are in the worst category. Extreme and exceptional drought. This darkest color, that's the exceptional drought. Most of the hill country, Highway 90 west of town, and even southern Bexar County included in the exceptional drought. Rain chances going forward, 0%. I don't even think we have that rogue 10% chance that you often see on this graphic here. I just don't even think we can get that going anytime soon. Temperature-wise, right now we're at 88. Dew point is 69, southeasterly breeze at 17. You notice that wind out of the southeast, and that will be pumping the brakes after midnight tonight. Temperatures across the state, for the most part, right near 90, give or take a few degrees. 91 in Junction, 88 New Braunfels, 85 Gonzales, Kennedy at 82 degrees, 90 Hondo and Castroville, and 87 right now in Converse. We'll start the day tomorrow at 76 degrees. Then check out your KSAT 12-hour forecast. By noon, 92 degrees, a southerly wind at about 5 to 15 miles per hour. 4 and 5 o'clock, that should be our hottest part of the day. Up to 100 again, maybe a degree higher. And What's a few degrees amongst friends Fahrenheit? You're not going to notice the difference. It's just that psychological factor when it's up above 100. For the most part, I do think we'll be at or slightly above 100 with a few exceptions up in the hill country tomorrow. Next week, back to 103 by Wednesday and Thursday. Those will be the record-breaking days. And I do want to point out, we will have noticeable Saharan dust in the air tomorrow. If you're very sensitive to that dust, you may notice it tomorrow. Otherwise, you'll just see an extra haze in the sky before it dissipates throughout Monday.
All right, Adam, thank you.
All right, Larry, Spurs were able to leave Las Vegas lucky with a win, and one of their rookies had a big part in that.
Yeah, Malachi Branham was absolutely on fire today, had his best game of the Las Vegas Summer League, where he finished perfect in the fourth quarter. He was their go-to guy, and SAFC was back on the pitch tonight, and they were dominant at home. Coming up. The Spurs beat the Grizzlies 90-87 today to finish 1-4 in Las Vegas. Rookie Malachi Branham led SA with 23 points, 14 of those coming in the fourth quarter when he shot 5 for 5 overall, making all 4 of his three-point attempts as the Spurs go out with a win. Malachi says he got a little extra motivation to score from the Grizzlies.
Somebody was talking to me on the bench, and he said, "You're not gonna hit the next one." So I hit the next one, I hit the next one, and then it went on from there. It's been good, you know. I've been watching this since I was young on TV. So getting here and experiencing and playing it is definitely surreal.
Rookie Blake Wesley struggled, scoring 9 points and shooting 2 for 17 from the field. The Countdown City Skills Camp hosted by UTSA football players Frank Harris and Rashad Wisdom was a huge success. The free event was held at Linhoff Stadium yesterday morning. Harris and Wisdom absolutely loved giving back to San Antonio, so we asked them what they wanted the kids to take away from the Skills Camp.
I just want them, if they're ever in an opportunity like in position that me and Rashad are in, that they, they get back to the younger youth as well if they're ever in this position, and to just see, that there are, positive, influences out there, and that they could be in our position one day playing at a college level at UTSA.
I would say just, the aspect of, football is fun, because as you get older, things get a little bit more serious, it could become more of a business, and, this is the time now where there's nothing to worry about, they're just going out there and playing because, they love the game, they love the sport, and that's kind of what I remember when I was this age, and that's what I want them to take away from it too, just, the love and everything.
Cincinnati Bengals defensive back Trey Flowers was there, and he helped teach the kids, and he was asked what kind of questions do the young campers ask him.
I would say I mainly get questions about Joe Burrow right now, so those are the weirdest questions I get. I don't know them that well, so I can't really answer them how they want, but I do my best.
Flowers is entering his 5th season in the NFL. San Antonio FC at home tonight to play Atlanta United 2. Doesn't take long for the home team to get on the board. 13th minute of play. Connor Maloney slides it over to Samuel Adeniran, and he slots it past the keeper for a 1-0 lead. 2 minutes later, they strike again. This time Maloney finds Santiago Patino at the top of the box, and he bends it just inside the far post for a beautiful goal to make it 2-0 San Antonio. Patino would add another on a penalty kick in the 33rd minute, and San Antonio cruises to a big home win, 5-0. Oakland at Houston this afternoon in the Bigs, bottom of the second inning, and Martin Maldonado provides the big blow with a grand slam to center field. It's 4-zip Houston, and the Astros take it 5-0. Mariners at the Rangers today, top of the 10th, tied at 2. J.P. Crawford hits an RBI single to right field, scoring Sam Haggerty for a 1-run lead. Seattle's Matt Festa struck out the side in the bottom of the 10th, and Seattle wins 3-2. St. Louis Cardinals first baseman Paul Goldschmidt hit his 300th career home run today, becoming the 153rd player to reach the 300 club. The former Texas State great, who's in his 12th Major League Baseball season, has 997 RBI. Curbs.
Good for him. And
right?
All-Star weekend now, right?
It is.
All right. Thanks, Larry.
Yep.
We'll be right back.